Story 1. I worked in a fine dining Italian restaurant in New York City. The dish names were in Italian on the menu but had very clear English descriptions. We also took time to go over the menu in great detail. We had a caciucco, which is a seafood stew from Tuscany made with 5 types of seafood. After taking the table's order, I asked about dietary restrictions and allergies, as was our service standard. The lady who ordered the caciucco said, "Oh, I have lots of allergies, but I ordered around them. Well, just in case there is something you are allergic to that isn't listed, would you mind letting me know what they are?" "Well, I'm deathly allergic to shellfish. I carry an epinephrine auto-injector." "Okay, ma'am. I'm afraid you will need to find another dish, since the caciucco is a seafood stew that contains 3 types of shellfish. Can't you just take those out?" "No." Story 2. They complained that their American coffee tasted like espresso diluted with hot water. Their date looked at them with a dumbfounded expression. Story 3. Not a restaurant but a deli in New York in the mid-1980s. Sliced the ham thin. I offered a piece to taste and approve. "Thinner, ultra thin." I said, "Okay, but at some point, it won't stay together. It will be shredded." "Shredded is fine. Ultra thin, shredded." So it was shredded. 2 hours later, she and her husband brought the ham back, screaming at the owner, "Is this a joke? We aren't paying for this. It's not even meat at this point." The owner gave them their money back and asked them not to return. I was a teenager and apologized to the owner many times. He said, "They are just assholes. Don't sweat it." Story 4. I was at a Korean restaurant and another customer ordered bibimbap. Came with gochujang sauce. Instead of asking or tasting what it was, she emptied the entire bottle. Of course, it was too spicy for her to eat. She demanded a completely new dish. The waiter asked why she dumped the entire bottle in her dish. She said she thought it was ketchup at a Korean restaurant. The waiter just looked at her, sighed, and brought her a new dish. Story 5. I was working at a cheese shop in a grocery store. A teenager came by asking about the cheddars we had. I went through the usual explanation and concluded with my favorite, which was an aged Welsh cheddar. I said to the kid, "And this is our Welsh cheddar," and gave him a small sample. He said, "Wait, what is Welsh cheddar? Where does it come from?" I explained it is from Wales, assuming he understood that it was a country. You can see where this is going. He was confused and eventually wandered off. A few minutes later, a man came up to my counter, immediately demanding to know where the whale cheese was. He was absolutely insistent that we had cheese from Wales. I realized this was the dad. I explained that his kid must have misunderstood me. I showed him the packaging and everything and told him no, it is not made from whale milk. I mean, is it even possible to milk a whale? It says right here on the packaging it is made from cow milk. He proceeded to get upset with me, denied the clear evidence in front of him, and continued to insist it was whale cheese. This was over 10 years ago, and I still laugh about the misunderstanding. Story 6. Customer tapped their finger on my wedding ring and said, "You would make a lot more money if you were not wearing that." Story 7. Can I get a bacon, egg, and cheese on an English muffin, but no bacon? Me, okay, an egg and cheese English muffin. Them, no. A bacon, egg, and cheese English muffin, just no bacon. Me. That's exactly what an egg and cheese is. There's no bacon on it. Them, yes, but I want. Me interrupting them. Okay, you got it. Anything else? Story 8. I worked almost 20 years in restaurants. There is no way I could name them all, but here are a few that come to mind. A man ordered a Big Mac at a steakhouse where I worked. I explained that they only have those at McDonald's, but I could have the cook make him a burger. He agreed but then sent it back because it didn't taste the same. He was upset. A woman ordered chicken noodle soup but requested I pick out all the chicken for her. I refused, and she tried to complain about me to the manager. The manager obviously took my side. I worked at a fancy place with uniforms. A knee-length skirt with black pantyhose was required. All the waitresses wore the same outfit. A woman submitted written complaints about me several times. claiming I was dressing provocatively and strutting around in a tight skirt in front of her husband, apparently trying to seduce him. Her husband was about 80 years old, and I don't think I ever served him once. A very famous celebrity ordered a cappuccino with no milk. I tried several times to understand exactly what he wanted and ended up just bringing him an espresso that he didn't drink. Several people came in with coupons for different restaurants, expecting me to honor them. A man asked me what tea was. More people than you would expect thought that root beer and ginger ale were alcoholic drinks. A man was shocked at his bill because he assumed all alcohol would be on the house since it was his birthday. It never ceased to amaze me how many people don't know what lemonade is. Every place I worked that served it, I had multiple customers order lemonade with no sugar. I always carefully explained that they would get a glass of water with lemon juice added and that it would be sour. They insisted anyway and always complained when they drank it. This happened so many times, and it amazed me every time. Story 9. I was a pizza delivery driver during college. One evening, a huge blizzard hit us, and most of the roads were heavily snowed in. A lady called and ordered a delivery to the top of a local hill. The road was steep and windy, going through a forest. Since the blizzard was very sudden, I knew there was no way the local municipality would have plows out yet. I asked if she would be willing to pick up the pizza herself, to which she replied, "I'm not risking my life for a pizza." I thought, yeah, you'd rather risk mine. Story 10. A lady next to me at Applebee's ordered fettuccine Alfredo. She was surprised that it was made with a cheesy white sauce. She told the server that she always makes it with regular red sauce at home. Story 11. The air conditioning broke on probably the hottest day of summer. There was a sign on the door. I was waiting tables, sweating heavily like Patrick Ewing in the 1990s, feeling miserable. A woman asked me if I could turn the air conditioning up for her. Yes, we were just running it very low. Good call. Story 12. I worked in an Outback steakhouse in a rural town with a decent-sized college. Many people ordered the small prime rib because it was the cheapest beef item on the menu, not realizing that prime rib is a slice of a roast and not a seared steak. Multiple times a night, a prime rib would be sent back to be seared on the flat top to make it more like a steak. Story 13. I was asked for directions over the phone a long time ago. I asked the caller where he was coming from. He said he did not know, he was lost. I asked where I should start the directions from. He got mad and said he had just told me, he did not know. I said I was not sure how to provide directions without knowing where to start, even just a general area of the city, such as north or east. I was about to ask if he would like me to start from the airport, the first major landmark that came to mind, when he got mad again and hung up. Story 14. How much horse meat is in horseradish? Not kidding. That waiter also pronounced asparagus as aspergrass. Story 15. This isn't antipasto. Are you an idiot? Do you see any pasta on this plate? Ma'am, it isn't my fault you don't know what antipasto is, how it's pronounced, what anti means, or how to read a menu with a clear description right under the name of the dish. It's been 25 years, and I thought of her immediately when coming across this, complaining well before it was common. She's probably long gone and never knew this would be her legacy. Story 16. Years ago, when I was bartending my way through university, someone got upset because I used a just washed glass for her drink. She literally thought I would get a new one for her, as in an unused glass fresh from the factory. What a fool. Story 17. I work for a well-known coffee company where we wear green aprons. Most of my customers seem incapable of using their ears, eyes, or common sense when they interact with us. One of our beverages features freeze-dried dragon fruit, which makes the drink a bright purple color. A customer once ordered this drink, confirmed that the item on the screen was what they wanted, and then got upset that they were not warned ahead of time that their beverage would be purple when they received it. Story 18. My fiancé works at an English pub, and he sent me a picture of a ticket where someone ordered the seafood tower but had a shellfish allergy. Story 19. Old man. What kind of cheeseburgers do you have? Manager, we do not have cheeseburgers. Old man yelling, what? Why not? Manager, this is a Chinese restaurant. Old man, Oh, so it is not the Italian place? I was laughing so hard watching this all go down. Story 20. Worked at a barbecue place that served baby back ribs. It is on the menu several times. A lady came in and ordered ribs. When they arrived, she complained that her ribs were not baby back but were St. Louis style. I was fully aware of what St. Louis style ribs are, as I was taking meat science classes at the time. She struggled to believe me when I said we had only ever ordered and cooked baby back ribs in the store. This lady returned months later and ordered ribs again. This time, she complained that her half rack of ribs was not a half rack because she got the half where the bones get smaller. Some people. Story 21. Here is one story where I was the unprepared customer. My wife and I decided to go out to Longhorn Steakhouse for dinner after a long and exhausting day. We drove there but accidentally pulled into the Chili's next door without paying attention. We both walked in and were very confused. The host asked how many people were in our party. We apologized and said we meant to go to Longhorn Steakhouse and left. The look he gave us was priceless and rightfully so. Story 22. Not a server anymore, but I had a man ask if we had pierogies. When I told him we did not, he proceeded to explain what pierogies were to me, as if the reason I said we did not have them was that I did not know what they were. Story 23. Burger place. Person tried to order an omelet. I told them we do not serve omelets. They said, yes, but you have eggs because you have an egg on your breakfast burger. And tried to order an omelet again. People are strange. Story 24. During the height of COVID-19 restrictions in the United Kingdom, only card payments were allowed. Cash was strictly prohibited. A woman claimed that I was discriminating against her because she was black, simply because I said I could not accept her cash due to the COVID-19 restrictions. She caused a scene, shouting that I was racist and refusing to accept cash because of her race. I was stunned. Story 25. Not a waiter, but the table next to us at a fancier steakhouse asked if they could have the tomahawk steak cooked half medium and half well done. Story 26. Handing back an open takeout container aggressively. I can't have mayonnaise on this burger. I'm lactose intolerant. It was so fast, I just grabbed it and brought it back. It hit me as I handed it to the cooks to be remade. Story 27. Working at Subway was super busy one day, so I was only doing the register, not making the sandwiches. A customer came up and berated me because there were tomatoes on his sandwich. Tomatoes are transparent vegetables, so you can see through them and know what goes into the sandwich. I cannot count the number of times I was yelled at because I did not ask customers if they had a Subway card, and they did not get points for their purchase. I do not miss the food service industry. Story 28. This just happened to me the other day. I am a bartender. A guy comes in and asks, "Are your draft beers cold yet?" I replied, "What?" He says, "I know you just opened. So are your draft beers cold yet?" I explain, "They are in a walk-in refrigerator." He responds, "Oh, thought you might have to put them on ice or something." The guy was probably in his mid-40s. Like, have you only ever been to a house party? Story 29. At brunch, an elderly woman pointed at something and asked if it was chicken or fish. I said, those are scrambled eggs. Story 30. I got the steak tartare at a very nice restaurant in Manhattan. I had ordered the beef tartare appetizer, and the waiter leaned in and said in a quiet tone, "Sir, I just want to confirm that you realize that this is uncooked steak." I was very polite and thanked him, assuring him I knew what it was. His whole demeanor changed. I think he was a little embarrassed. He explained that a few nights ago some people had been in and ordered the beef tartare medium well. Apparently, it was quite the conversation. Story 31. I used to work at a pizza place that sold 16-inch subs. The number of times I was asked, "Is that a foot long?" Or, "How big is 16 inches?" is astounding. Story 32. I would like to respond as the customer. I did not realize the red sauce on enchiladas is called chili. I ordered enchiladas with no chili because I thought it was something else. When I got home, I was very upset. I did not make a complaint or ask for a refund. I just fumed alone at home. Later, I realized my mistake. Story 33. I will have a vegan full English breakfast. Okay, what would you like instead of the egg? Oh, I still want the egg. And can I have black pudding as well? I am sorry, what? Story 34. Someone ordered from the sushi menu but said they did not like sushi, so they asked if all the ingredients in the roll could be made into a sandwich. Later, this became a phrase we used there. That is as mixed up as a sushi sandwich. Story 35. I was the stupid one. I had already decided what I wanted for my main course, but as I was talking to the waiter, I realized I wanted something additional. Rather than check the menu, I just asked him, "Do you have seaweed salad?" "No, I'm sorry, we don't." My friend and I ordered the rest of our food. I then said, "Are you sure you don't have seaweed salad?" "I'm pretty sure I've had it here before." With a bit of impatience, he replied, "No, I'm sorry, we don't. You know, the salad with the long thin bits of green and some sesame oil." He interrupted me to say, "Do you mean seafood salad?" I was very confused when I said, "Yes, what have I been saying?" Both the waiter and my dining companion said, "Seafood salad." Dough. Story 36. 20 years ago on a busy Friday night dinner rush. We are in a hurry as we have tickets to a show. Can we order dinner but have the kitchen rush it out? I will have the 32-ounce ribeye cooked well done, please. Story 37. Worked at Cold Stone. Someone asked for chocolate chip flavored ice cream. I thought he meant ice cream with chocolate chips mixed in. He did not want that and kept asking for chocolate chip flavored ice cream. He did not want chocolate ice cream, chocolate chips mixed in, or chocolate sauce mixed in. He wanted chocolate chip flavored ice cream. Story 38. Fine dining, silver service restaurant. A customer asked me whether our caramelized onion had added sugar. I said I didn't think it did but would check with the chef. He gave me a condescending look and said, "You do that, because I think you'll find it does, sweetheart." I went to the kitchen and asked the chef. He said no, no sugar. I went back to the customer to let him know. He said, "No, that can't be right. It'll have sugar added." So, my word, and the chef's who makes it isn't good enough and you know better. Why did you even ask? Story 39. I worked at an Italian restaurant where we served filet mignon. A customer came in and said he wanted a large one the size of a T-bone steak. Story 40. When I was working at a restaurant, a man came up to the bar with obviously swollen lips. He got angry and said, "Is there cinnamon in this? I'm allergic to cinnamon." Yes, there is cinnamon in the spice blend we use on several dishes. However, he had not mentioned any allergies or asked questions about the menu when I took his order. Before he left, he yelled, "This happened to me last time I was here too." Story 41. I want a peach mimosa. Okay, one Bellini. Anything else? Yes, I want a peach mimosa, not a Bellini. Sorry, one peach mimosa. Bellini versus mimosa was clearly stated on the menu. Story 42. This cheese dip is too spicy. Ma'am, you chose to go to a Mexican restaurant. If the cheese is too spicy, I cannot help you. Story 43. I worked at a children's shoe store once. Parents, I am looking for a pair of shoes for my son. Me, okay. May I know what size he wears? Parents, I am not sure, but he is 12 years old. With the child at home, it always surprised me how many parents came to me saying the exact same thing. The child is at home, he or she is a certain age, and I want these shoes in his or her size. Story 44. I was a trainer for TGI Fridays while in college. I was training a new employee, and we were on the day when she was taking the tables and I was shadowing her. A guest ordered a vodka on the rocks. As she was entering it into the point-of-sale system, she selected vodka and rocks. She stopped for a second, looked at me and said, "Do I do an upcharge for rocks?" I said, "Do you know what rocks is? A type of vodka?" I thought the default was well drinks only. Story 45. Are the grapes gluten-free? I cannot have mayonnaise. I am allergic to dairy. I want my burger medium rare with no pink. The list goes on. Some people are difficult. Story 46. Oh man, when I was waiting tables at a popular steakhouse with Australian ties in Podunk, North Carolina during college, I had the most random tables. An older lady of a healthy size waved me over after the steaks had been delivered. Me, okay, cool. Do you need extra napkins? Water. Her, this one sauce has gone bad. It's all runny. I need more. Me, I'll be happy to bring out a bottle of A1 sauce, Worcestershire sauce, or Heinz 57 sauce. That is actually our own au jus in the ramekin we serve with our prime ribs. Her, what? I showed her the description on the menu. Her, I don't want au jus. Give me A1 sauce. I learned more about people waiting tables than I did in undergrad when this all happened. Everyone should experience a customer-facing role. Story 47. I think it was some kind of meme back in the day, but a guy ordered a boneless pizza and a 2-liter Coca-Cola. Story 48. I have so many. A few come to mind. Is your chicken grass-fed? She seemed really upset when I said no because she was vegan, apparently. The meatloaf, what is that? Is it a type of pasta? A man pointed at his spoon and asked, what is this supposed to be for? Every time I order your calamari, it comes out chewy. Does your chef know how to cook calamari properly? Story 49. Politely declined to swap items on a discounted dish that was labeled as no substitutions. The customer called me a communist and said that if I were in the war with him, he would have left me to die alone on the battlefield. Story 50. I was a supervisor of a hotel restaurant. One day, the general manager found me at the front desk at an unusual time and asked, what are you doing? I said, updating the menu because of a complaint we received this morning. He asked for details in case it came back to him, and I said, they complained that their waffles came with strawberries because they are allergic to strawberries. He asked, what did the current menu say? And I showed him that the waffles came with fruit topping. He said, is it always strawberry? I said, no, we change it up based on our current fruits. It could be blueberries, strawberries, etc. He asked, did they say they were allergic? I said, no, it says fruit. He didn't claim any allergies until after we served him strawberries. He said, it seems reasonable that if you know a fruit topping is coming and you are allergic to a fruit, you would say something just in case. I replied, yes, sir, I agree. I'm just trying to add a line saying fruit offerings change daily. So please communicate with your server. Story 51. A customer asked me what the difference was between a 6-ounce and an 8-ounce sirloin. I told them one was bigger than the other. Then they asked, no, what do they look like compared to each other? In addition, someone asked me what sweet potato fries are made of. Story 52. I work at a Dairy Queen. Many people like to order the banana split blizzard and complain that it is soupy, not realizing it has a lot of liquid ingredients. One time, we tried to explain to a lady that it was like that because of the liquid ingredients. She tried to argue that it was not. Also, when customers ask if we sell milkshakes, I suggest looking at the menu right in front of them. Story 53. Staff, not a customer I read for the purpose of this story, was working at a restaurant, and on the point of sale systems, if a customer ordered a steak or burger, it automatically prompted you to specify how the meat should be cooked, for example, medium rare. I was bartending and one of the point of sale stations was at the end of the bar. A server named Midge came up and started putting in an order. She stopped and said, Red, what's between medium and well? I glanced at the screen where the options were listed in order of doneness. Rare, medium, and so on. Thinking I misheard her, I asked her to repeat herself. What's between medium and well? My brain froze. Surely she wasn't that clueless. Was she? Was I the one missing something? In my confusion, I glanced over at another server who had heard the whole thing. She, my future wife Kitty, was about to break a rib holding her laughter in. Medium well, I said tentatively, still confused. Okay, thanks. Midge replied and finished the order. I felt dumber for the interaction. Story 54. Being asked if I am a chef just because I am female. Why else would I be carving a large hip of beef in a full chef's uniform? Story 55. It wasn't me, but someone I worked with. The woman was standing at the ice cream counter and asked, which is your chocolatiest ice cream? I watched my coworker swallow the sarcastic comment he wanted to make and simply reply, "The chocolate." This was not Baskin-Robbins. We had 6 kinds of ice cream, all completely visible to the customer and labeled. Story 56. Picture it. There was a small table behind a door, around a corner between the dining room and the patio that we only used if we ran out of room. This family came in weekly and knew you were supposed to wait for the host to seat you. The mother and daughter, who were always competing to see which one could be more tasteless, rude, and obnoxious, barged past the host while we were on a wait list and chose the specific table to seat themselves at. The previous group sitting there had just left, so it hadn't been cleared and still had a few cups and plates. I happened to walk by them when I went back to get something, and they tried to catch my attention. Excuse me, is anyone planning on waiting on us? We've been sitting here forever, and someone's dirty dishes are on our table. Story 57. My dad was working at an oceanside restaurant in Hawaii back in the 1980s. The patio area overlooks the ocean from ground level. One of his tables asked him what the elevation was for the restaurant. My dad said that he looked down over the railing and told the customers, "About 5 feet." Story 58. I'm short. In college, I waitressed at a restaurant with many older women who often had lunch together. 2 quotes from the same lady on different days. "Honey, you're so cute. I want to take you home, bronze you, and put you on my knick-knack shelf." I gave her a little chuckle while thinking to myself, "Okay, you want me dead." A week or so later, "Honey, you're so cute. You're lucky it doesn't rain in here because if it did, you'd drown." I didn't even give her a polite smile. I just paused and said, "Okay." Story 59. I had a woman with brown curly hair holding up a strand of brown curly hair and screaming at me, telling me it came from my blonde straight hair. She was about 40 years old and I was 22. Story 60. When I worked at Burger King, a customer asked me what all came on the sausage biscuit. I did not know how to answer without sounding rude. All of our sandwiches had the ingredients in the name: sausage, egg and cheese croissant sandwich, bacon, egg and cheese biscuit, egg and cheese croissant. There was also a large promotional poster above me on the menu board with a big picture of the sausage biscuit, clearly showing a single sausage patty between 2 biscuit halves. It was not the dumbest question ever asked, but the contrast with the poster made it close. Story 61. Dane here, and the story takes place in Denmark. I worked at a bakery that had a wide selection of delicious pastries, including a cake with coconut. An American tourist asked how we could make those cakes when coconut palms are not native to Northern Europe and only grow in tropical climates. Story 62. I worked at a lunch counter. A man already stuffing his face with a Jamaican patty waddled up to me and blurted, "Hamburger!" spitting a chunk of food at me. I wiped my face and replied, "We don't sell hamburgers." He waddled away. Story 63. Walk in the unlocked door, order beers and food, then ask, "So, are you open?" The same guy asked if we had a dock for their boat after he parked his boat and walked from the dock. Story 64. A customer once asked me where the bathroom was, and I pointed to it. It was on the other side of the store. He said, "Never mind. I am not walking all the way over there. I will just go home." I was so confused. Story 65. I worked at a restaurant in coastal Maine that served mostly tourists. Whole lobster dinner was one of the most common dinner entrees. On more than one occasion, I had people ask me if they should eat the lobster shell. I don't know if it was a get my money's worth mindset or just plain stupidity. Story 66. Seitan cheesesteak on gluten-free bread for gluten allergy. You got it. Another experience was cooking in a semi-high-end kitchen during brunch service. I received a list of allergies, with the main restriction being no red items on the plate due to an allergy to the color red. Not the food dye, but the color itself. Story 67. I had a customer order a Hennessy on the rocks, and then get enraged with me when I served her Hennessy on ice. She became legitimately upset and argued with me and the rest of her party when we tried to explain that I had given her exactly what she wanted. She became angrier when I refused to serve her anything after that. The people she was with were nice and understanding, but we were all taken aback because she seemed completely fine and normal until I returned with the Hennessy on the rocks. I have used that instance as a reminder, even outside of bartending, that sometimes you can do exactly what is asked of you and people can still be upset. I turned that into a lesson about identifying user needs versus user wants. Story 68. My wife used to work at the local barbecue restaurant, and baby boomer customers would frequently order smoked chicken and then send it back because it was pink in the middle. Smoked meat develops a pink smoke ring. They usually did not believe it when told. Story 69. A couple and their approximately 8 to 9-year-old son. The mother tells me she cannot eat anything red-colored. She then explains she was breastfeeding her son and red-colored food affected her breast milk. She then proceeded to drink half a bottle of Merlot. Story 70. Brunch at a restaurant where I worked as an expediter. We had an omelette with ham and cheese on it, very basic. The order came back for the omelette with no ham and no cheese. We asked the server because that is just scrambled eggs. The customer said she was vegan. When the server asked her to clarify, she confirmed no cheese because she was vegan, no ham because she was vegan. She paid about 3 times more for basically a side of scrambled eggs and ate the entire thing. It has been 5 years, and I will never get over it. Story 71. Preston, is that you? Are you looking for content for your videos? I hope you get a lot of good ones. I love watching them. Story 72. I worked in the back of the house, but I overheard this at a Chinese restaurant once. A man with his family of 4 looked at their server, an Asian man, and said, "Oh, we have a bunch of people like you back home at the Chinese restaurant in our town." He thought he was being funny. Story 73. The restaurant I worked at had a chicken Alfredo fettuccine dish. The description listed the ingredients but did not mention the fettuccine or the chicken. A woman asked me if there was chicken in the dish. Me, yes, there is chicken in the chicken fettuccine. Customer, are you sure? It does not say so in the description. Me, it is in the title. Story 74. Not the staff, but I walked into my favorite Chinese restaurant after an exhausting day and ordered almost boneless almonds instead of almond boneless chicken. As soon as the words left my mouth, the waiter and I both froze. Story 75. I genuinely could never understand why anyone with severe allergies would take the chance of going out to eat. Story 76. My family used to own a restaurant. A lady called in and ordered a large pepperoni pizza, a 2-liter Coca-Cola, and a dozen hot wings. I was 17. I took the phone order, made the pizza myself, and fried and dressed the wings. Everything was perfect. I made the delivery myself too. The food stayed hot in an insulated bag plugged into the cigarette lighter port, and the soda stayed cold in a separate cold bag. The delivery was successful. There was no tip, but some people are like that. When I got back, she called, cursing me out, saying the pizza was burnt, it was not, and that she ordered a dozen wings but only received 12. I said a dozen is 12. I thought maybe she expected 13, which is a baker's dozen. But she insisted, saying, "No, little boy, when I order a dozen donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, they give me 18. Where are my other 6 wings?" She yelled at me for 10 minutes. I said, "Bring the pizza back and I'll fix it and refund you." She replied, "We ate it all." I asked about the wings and she had no answer. I said, "That's the New York State educational system's problem, not mine." She never called or came back. Good riddance, you don't need every customer. Story 77. Not on the level of other things here, but I was a server back in college over 20 years ago, and a couple of things stick out. We were a pub that served a variety of dishes, including pizza. We were also located right next to another pizza place. Someone walked in and asked if they could order a pizza from the neighboring restaurant and eat it on our patio. I told her no, but she could sit on our patio and order one of our pizzas. She said she only wanted one from next door. There was also an occasion when we were running a special martini menu. A woman ordered one, drank the entire drink, and then at the end of the meal informed me that it was not what she ordered, clearly trying to get it for free. My manager informed her that she was required to pay for it. Story 78. My eyes almost roll out of my head anytime someone asks for gluten-free vodka or any 80-proof liquor. Story 79. Grew up in a pub with a small restaurant on the side. Mum took a couple's order in the restaurant. The man ordered steak. His wife ordered chicken risotto without the rice. My mum just said, "So, just chicken then?" Story 80. Oh man, I used to work at a country club, and let me tell you, how most of these rich people made so much money being so stupid is beyond me. One of the dumbest questions I ever got, though. This guy comes up to order at the bar and sees a list of specials. One of them was a portobello burger. Now, there are a few clarifying questions you could ask about that, but this guy asks, the portobello burger, that doesn't have portobello mushrooms on it, does it? I didn't even know what to say. Story 81. The customer was upset because her vegan tiny pumpkin meal had a pumpkin that was green and yellow, not orange like the one her mother had on her plate. Her mother ordered a dish with squash. This woman was celebrating her 30-something birthday with her parents and was condescending and rude about the situation. When I tried to explain that her mother actually had squash and offered to replace it, she said, "I've been a vegan my whole life. I know what squash and pumpkin look like." Story 82. I once served a lady in a cafe where I worked. After greeting her, I suggested the Thai fish cakes. I said they were very good. She responded, "No thanks, I don't eat fish. I'll have a baked potato with tuna, please." Like, seriously? Story 83. Fast food, but just the same. Customer. Whopper with no lettuce, tomato, onions, cheese, nothing. Just meat and bread. Me. So a Whopper plain? Customer. No, a Whopper with no lettuce, mayo, pickles, cheese, onions. Me. Okay, got it. A plain Whopper. Customer. No, a Whopper that's only meat and bread. Me. Got it. A Whopper with only meat and bread. So a plain Whopper. Customer. Exactly, you idiot. Story 84. I once ordered a grilled cheese sandwich with cheese. The waitress looked at me funny, and then I realized. To be fair, it was our first break of the morning, and I had not had breakfast yet. I was a little out of it, yet somehow had already put in 2 hours fixing pipes and drove the work truck to the diner along with my lead. Story 85. At breakfast in a hotel in England, an older man with a curly mustache, who was extremely rude, asked me for a well-done poached egg. Story 86. Waited tables at a beachside restaurant. A woman ordered the blackened grouper. As soon as I placed it in front of her, she immediately said without even tasting it, I don't want this, it's burned." Story 87. I want a chili dog with no chili, mustard, or onions. That was all our hot dogs came with. She didn't ask for any toppings and threw a fit when she got plain hot dogs because apparently she wanted secret toppings. She eventually left screaming at my managers that she was going to complain to corporate. She didn't want ketchup packets or a remake with toppings and refused to cooperate with anyone. She left in a large white Cadillac SUV. I couldn't believe she could get her hands on that without having the sense to tell me what she even wanted. I thankfully never saw her again. Looking back, she was probably scamming us for free food. I became suspicious of other customers seemingly lying about what they wanted and then getting refunds or replacements, especially when they lied about having coupons in the drive-thru. Another time, a couple asked for no sauces on their food. They got their food and then complained because there was no mayonnaise on it. I said, "I'm so sorry. I thought when you said no sauces you meant no sauces." I was being sarcastic, but they didn't seem to catch that and tipped. Tips were really rare as it was a fast food place. I quit soon afterward, so I don't know if they came back. Story 88. Heard a man in a steakhouse ask for a mug of meat juice. He wanted to drink au jus. Not sure what happened with the waiter, but I had to go to the bar because I was crying. Story 89. Some man said he did not want to look at the menu and ordered chicken Alfredo. I worked in a Japanese restaurant, so I told him that. He then said he wanted pad thai. Another time, I worked at an upscale Italian restaurant. A woman ordered pizza. I brought out the pizza. She said, "Wow, do you have a pizza oven back there in the kitchen?" I just stared at her. The pizza oven and pizzaiolo are the first things you see when you enter the restaurant. She was not joking. Story 90. Not a restaurant, but a tea shop. I was frequently asked for plain tea, to which I would ask if they wanted black or green. No, just plain. Original flavor. Story 91. I used to work at a historic old hotel in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. On Sundays, they had a massive ice sculpture featuring swans and flowers. They really did a good job with it. One Sunday, I came in to see a frail woman in her 90s doing her best to get her share from the food serving. She was methodically cutting off one of the ice flowers for her plate. Story 92. A lady called and threatened to sue because she had ordered a clearly labeled strawberry banana smoothie for her husband, who had a banana allergy. Someone tried to order a red velvet cake for a person who they said had a very severe chocolate allergy. When I told them that the red velvet cake we use is basically chocolate cake dyed red, they said, "That's fine. They just can't have chocolate chips or syrup." Story 93. When she was unhappy with a drink we told her we could not make correctly because of physics and chemistry, she shouted at the manager, "If you cannot make it, why is it on the menu?" This would not be an issue except it was not on the menu. Story 94. At a resort in Mexico, a table next to me had two couples ordering drinks. One man said to the waiter, "We'll have 4 margaritas. Thank you." Hey, how do you say margarita in Spanish? Story 95. I worked at a non-Starbucks coffee shop in a large mall in the 2010s when I was a teenager. It was the peak Black Friday in-person shopping mania era, and our mall would open at 7 p.m. on Thanksgiving and stay open through the next night. One year, I was working the espresso machine at about 11 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, and there was a huge line all the way down the hall for coffee. I was probably making 20 pumpkin spice lattes at the same time when a guy jumped out of line to come to the end of the bar and asked me what rooibos tea tastes like. I explained that it is red tea and has a woody, slightly floral flavor in my opinion. He kept asking over and over again, "But what does it taste like?" Of course, he would not accept woody and floral as an answer. I assured him that if he waited in line, ordered rooibos tea, and did not like it, I would happily make him something else. He then told me that he did not even want to order it but was just curious. Honestly, I was working on Thanksgiving night to serve these mall shoppers, and he wasted 5 minutes of my time to ask about something he did not even want to order. I have many more stories from that job. It was wild. Story 96. A recent situation involved a guest who was upset about being charged for a side with their meal. I showed them the menu, which clearly stated the side costs $2.99 and is not free. She said, "I didn't know what the numbers meant, so I'm not paying." That is fine. Save your $2.99 and do not eat with us again. Story 97. A vegetarian man, who was generally obtuse to begin with, described his dietary requirements as not eating anything with eyes. The chefs had a good laugh figuring out all the ways that could be misinterpreted. For example, he allowed some shellfish but not potatoes. Don't worry, he still got the off-menu dish he insisted we made for him. We did not actually feed him any of the suggestions. Story 98. I had a customer at the bar where I worked who demanded ice in their water but wanted to make sure it was not watery ice. I do not know how to do that. Story 99. When my sister makes an order, she starts by telling them what she does not want on her food. I keep telling her to just say what she wants, not what she does not want. Story 100. I want the goat cheese pizza. Do you mean the goat cheese? No. This one right here points to the menu. The goat cheese pizza. Yes, you got it. Story 101. I was a bartender for about 2 months at a Mexican restaurant. The number of people who ordered a skinny margarita with a sugar rim was comical. Story 102. One time, we had someone order a chicken fried steak, eat the entire meal with no complaints, then say they wanted a different meal and refuse to pay because it was not chicken. Story 103. I ordered the fish at a restaurant. The server asked me how I wanted it cooked. The question caught me so off guard that the only thing I could think to say was, "Properly." Story 104. Explain to me the guacamole and chips. Starts to explain what guacamole is. I know what guacamole is. Okay, it is served with chips. What do you want me to explain then? Story 105. I work in senior living. One night, we had a live mariachi band. A lady asked our sous chef if he could turn the music down. I have witnessed servers telling the line cooks that the residents said their still steaming food was cold multiple times. Story 106. I had this happen today. I work at an Italian restaurant, and our pasta is a build-your-own situation. Pick a shape, pick a sauce, pick any toppings, and we mix it up for you in the kitchen. A lady looked at me today and said, "I'll take the long noodle with the spaghetti sauce." Straight-faced. My menu has tagliolini, fettuccine, pappardelle, spaghetti, and bucatini, so long noodle does not narrow it down at all. With 11 sauces to choose from, spaghetti sauce means nothing to me. What she wanted was fettuccine bolognese, but it took a minute to get there. Story 107. I once sat down at a restaurant, exhausted and needing a drink. I ordered the 1-800 margarita. My company pointed out that it is 1-800 tequila. We all had a laugh at my expense. Story 108. It's not a restaurant story. When I was about 10, I went to timber merchants with my father. The man behind the counter asked, "Do you want wood, timber, or lumber?" The look on Dad's face was cringeworthy because he is the really practical one. Story 109. A woman said she was allergic to salt. She was not on a restricted sodium diet. I have also been asked, "Do you have a bathroom? And do you know where the bathroom is?" Story 110. I worked at a restaurant with a large selection of cheesecakes. A lady yelled at me because we did not have frozen slices or any to-go containers to keep the cheesecake slices frozen. I told her that a slice ready to go would not be good traveling. From Round Rock, Texas, all the way down to Laredo. I even told her that I could have a slice ready for her at the location in Corpus Christi, so it would not be out for too long. I have never wanted to hang up a phone call so badly until that lady called. Story 111. Again and again we will have a carafe of Chardonnay. To be fair, it was Oklahoma City in 1999, and Red Lobster made people want to seem fancy. Story 112. Her card was declined, and she said she was going to call the police because she insisted she had money on the card. I said, "I really don't think that would end up the way you are imagining." 30 minutes later, her husband came in and handed me a different card. Apparently, she never activated her debit card after she received it. Story 113. I used to work at Chick-fil-A, specifically the drive-thru. One time at the window, a customer looked at me seriously and asked, "Do you all go to church together on Sundays?" Shaking my head. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.